Consider me your fairy godmother, here to sprinkle fairy dust of what you have always longed to hear. Don't you love this wizard hat that I got? So my boyfriend got this for me to wear to the Eclipse Festival that's going on in a couple of weeks, and it's part of my outfit of being a slutty wizard because duh. But yeah, it's gonna be probably showing up in my videos from here on out. It has come to my attention because it has also been a part of my life that there is a phase that we sometimes go through, which is called the doubting and the who me. And I am inspired to make a YouTube channel, but actually when I sit down to do it, it's like what vanishes is all million of our ideas that we just had bursting out of us, and somehow it disappears when we sit down to record. Or the will disappears before we upload it and hit publish, right? Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. Definitely has been my story. So as I was feeling the call to record this video for you, I was like, okay, I don't have absolute clarity in this moment, and that's okay. And what's cool is I definitely have felt like I needed to know exactly what I was gonna say. I felt like I needed to have a template, I needed to have it all organized, I needed to have everything polished so that basically my content could be flawless and no one could poke at it or no one could reject me if they found it to be lacking, or they could, I needed to have my stuff be perfect. But what that has done has prevented me from starting my YouTube channel that I wanted to create about 8 years ago and build it all 8 of these years. So here I am, we're not quite yet at 100 subscribers, but slowly but surely over the better part of a decade, I have built up this will or clarity within myself to go, you know what, fuck it, we ball. So here's what I would tell my younger self at least 5 to 8 years ago when it comes to creating my art and publishing my content and letting go of that voice that goes, oops, we don't know what to say anymore. Oops, we don't feel confident anymore. Guess it's not the time. Guess we gotta do something else right now, and keeps procrastinating the inevitable. So what I would tell her is that I know for myself that when I hit record, whether it's a video or it's a voice memo to a friend or just a voice memo to myself, good shit comes out. I get to discover stuff about myself or how life works, where I am giving myself good advice and I'm like, wow, that's really wise. And it's not until you start recording, it's not until you actually start allowing yourself to act on the thing that you can realize your genius. Because when you're still in the conception phase and you're like, oh, I can imagine how good that will feel, or oh, this idea is coming through, but you haven't acted on it, you haven't gotten the full juice. Sometimes we get ideas, we can imagine ourselves acting on it fully to completion, but in physicality, we don't actually take that first step. We don't actually take all of the steps needed. That's fine. However, where you're at is a place where you want to feel that fulfillment of like, oh, I actually carried something out to completion. I feel proud of myself. I feel confident that even if my art isn't perfect to me, I am still taking steps towards my calling, towards what I am guided to do, towards what I am guided to share. So one of the most important things I would tell others who have had similar negative thoughts as me when it comes to publishing their content is that you don't get to build that confidence without taking the action. The language of the physical reality is action. So action is the language of physical reality. Another way of looking at this is that our nervous system doesn't get the evidence it thinks it needs until we take the action. And we do that by basically bypassing the mental or emotional block that says we can't because da da da, and it has all these excuses. Because once you find yourself in motion, you're like, oh, this wasn't so hard. Like if you just get yourself to the gym, it is like 90% of your hesitancy to put on your tennis shoes, drive over there, buy the membership, like that all clears, right? Once you get yourself in the right environment, or you at least have the shoes on, at least you have the tool in your hand, it's like, oh, well, this was simple. I don't know why I put that off for weeks or months or years if you're me. If you put yourself that much closer towards being or doing or having or becoming whatever it is you wish, creating that art piece, fulfilling your dream in whatever way, you're going to be removing the obstacle out of your path just by taking one step. So for me, this is like, oh, I'm going to record this audio or this video, and no matter what, I'm going to publish it. Now, I may edit it, I may not. It may be in its complete form with the thumbnail or the description or the tags. It may not. I'm gonna chalk this up to being a win for me as long as I get it published. And if I'm like, you know what, actually it's gonna feel even better to me to edit it next time, I can either go back on my content and add things in later, or I can redo that piece of content and do it how I wanted to better. But what we're doing here is we're going to prove to our nervous system it is safe, it is good, and it is right to act on our inspiration. No, you don't have to force yourself to do this, but what I'm telling you is a cheat code. If what you're telling yourself is, I won't get satisfaction or fulfillment or a certain kind of pleasure unless I put myself out there, like starting a YouTube channel or publishing your writing or sharing your art in a public way, if you're telling yourself, I don't get to feel this way until other people see my stuff, then you really have just clarified that it's not about the in-between, it's really just about barfing it out there, getting something made, making bad art, putting it in front of people, and then showing yourself like, hey, it was only ever me rejecting myself before I got started. And if you get feedback that absolutely, obliterates you and you're like, I could never show my face or I could never do this again, you just got valuable feedback. Because here's the thing, you can still take the path of least resistance when it comes to making your art, but you also have to know what your own rules and equations are for how you get what you want. And I'm gonna guess that what you want is you want to be known for your wisdom, you want to be known for your work, you want to be known for what gifts you can bring to the world. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. So we all have this innate desire to reach into the caverns of our experiences and to go, you know what, I have transformed, I have alchemized something, and I can bring it forth to the public and share my goodness. Whether that's a product or that's a service or some free offering, we all have that intrinsic desire to give and share from overflow, and it's only when there's a glitch or a block between conception of an idea and the complete fulfillment or the completion of this idea in physical reality. Now, if you are someone who has tons of ideas, but you actually don't act on very many of them and you feel like you could grow in this area, raise your hand if you're like me. What you can do is write a project list, write a creative project list, and just organize your thoughts, prioritize them by how much energy is behind them, how much joy, what makes you smile and laugh just to think about, because that is going to carry you where you can push the boulder and it's going downhill rather than trying to push a boulder uphill. If you have already some sort of confidence in one project more than another, we're going to rank that as a priority, because the chances that that positive momentum keeps on rolling and then infects and affects your courage, your will, your stamina in all other areas is very high. So you could take that approach. Or You could take the approach of eating the frog first thing in the morning. If there's something you've been procrastinating for so long, you've been giving your energy to it, you've been leaking energy because you've been really dreading it, you can try the approach of first thing in the mornings when you have the most will and the least amount of decision fatigue. So that is when you are usually most equipped to attack the thing, and then you can just deal with the aftermath later, right? You can do your aftercare if you're just like riddled with embarrassment or anxiety. So what I like to do when I take that path is I'll go, okay, what is holding the most amount of energy, like separate from me? What am I holding as bigger than me? And can I approach that in a way that completes it, checks it off? I feel like I get all my energy back. And now I feel this clear divine inspiration to conquer the world, basically. That's what it feels like when you return that energy that you've been sending out back to yourself, because you just did that thing that you told yourself for weeks or months that you couldn't do because it was so much bigger than you and you were so afraid of. The other day, I really wanted to join this like business accelerator program, and even though it was a free Facebook group, I was afraid of the leader, like, I don't know, somehow calling me out or embarrassing me. And my mind tried to come up with all of these reasons why I shouldn't do it. And I realized that that was my frog. That was my dragon I needed to slay. I realized, like, you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is just a feeling. It's just an emotion. So even if it's the worst case scenario, I can get through it and I'll have learned something from it. Cool. Okay, and guess what? She was super sweet. Everything turned out actually best case scenario. Now I'm getting the benefit of having these other options from this free business Facebook group. And I go, oh wow, this story that I was starting to let surmount into a mountain of shame for no good reason, I didn't let it actually accumulate there because I was willing to eat that frog and attack it. And so the more that we actually face the dragon, we embrace the dragon of our artistic work or of our creative deep work, the easier it becomes to get to the other side where we're just proud of ourselves and we have this intrinsic confidence, we have this presence where even when a challenge occurs, even when we have this random fear, even whenever we realize there's a pattern of fear that has been preventing us from being our true selves, we can go, you know what, I recognize that that's not true, and I'm willing to challenge that notion. I'm willing to call its bluff, and I'm willing to show my hand, because then I will see its hand and it will be dispelled. And hey, worst case scenario, and I virtually die of embarrassment, I will have learned something. Because the worst case scenario is really, the worst thing that can happen is that you have a feeling and then it passes. Because one of the universal laws is everything changes. So if you watch this video and you're like, I really need support in building will and confidence and stamina and putting myself out there, I trust that there is some little nugget that you were like, you know what, I can start to implement that. And I tell you that even if you're like, I don't know if I have anything good to say, I don't know if I actually have anything of value, everything that's important has already been said by people who are more eloquent than me, who already have 500,000 subscribers. I don't know, like, I'm not even gonna make a dent. That is a trick of a negative belief trying to talk you out of your excitement, trying to talk you out of your inspiration, and you will only be robbing yourself of the pleasure of the journey if you believe it. Because remember, my friends, it's all about the process. You don't actually want to get to the end result. If you did, you have the power to create that end result, that feeling right now, and yet we choose to make it separate from us. We could sit here and meditate and visualize and create that feeling of satisfaction and legacy and fulfillment and joy and excitement and pride and confidence. We could do that right now, yet we choose not to. We choose to believe in the equation that we have to do the thing before we get that feeling, before we earn it. And that's okay. As long as we're willing to face and gamify our challenges and be playful with them and laugh at ourselves, it's gonna make this whole experience so much better. And just remember to enjoy whatever it is you choose to spend your time and energy on, because what else are we doing if we're not here to enjoy ourselves? The evolution is built in. If you need any support, you can reach out. You can book a one-on-one free discovery call with me in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.